Welcome to the Washdown podcast, episode number 98. And tonight I sit down with Scott Bond and Nick Bender. They are both firefighters. They've only been in the field a few years each, but we had a really great conversation about what their expectations were and how the job really is, and what they're doing to take care of their mental health. And even, the perspective, about mental health services from the newer generation on the fire department. It was a great conversation, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I got a lot out of it, and I hope you will too. So here you go, episode number 98 with Scott Bond and Nick Bender. Not so much of having a plan.
Yeah, well, why do you think I'm in EMS? There's no real plan.
Shit. I just show up and wing it.
Here's my question, though. When are you going to start cooking breakfast for everybody else?
That's a good question.
It is a tough question.
Because,
here's the problem, is I'm always going to eat breakfast. Not everyone always wants breakfast. And it's very frustrating when I don't eat breakfast because other people don't want breakfast.
Well, I'm not saying you can't eat breakfast. What I'm saying is it would be nice to be offered of, hey, I'm going to make breakfast. Would anybody like some? Instead of just making a delicious smelling steak
is
for
this
breakfast.
An intervention? Is this why you brought me in here?
I'm just saying, maybe some guys are feeling like, you're separating yourselves from them.
A steak and egg sandwich or a steak and egg burrito in the morning, wouldn't be the worst thing.
I'm a meathead. That's what it comes down to. I'm a meathead.
I wouldn't be mad if you were like, hey, do you want a burrito? I'd be like, yeah. Most of the time.
Just shots fired right away.
That's
why you put me in the corner here, so I can't leave.
So you guys move those a little bit closer to your faces.
How's this? Hello.
Better for you.
How's that?
There you go. Scoot into the table.
How's that?
There you go.
Okay, cool.
That's good.
All right.
Can you hear the difference in your headphones?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, welcome to the show. Thanks for doing it. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Thanks for having us.
I got a feeling this is probably about 8 rabbit holes that we're going to go down.
Oh, it's going to be a lot of rabbit holes. I didn't schedule anything else for the rest of the night because I knew this was going to be... It's going to get ridiculous, probably.
Rabbit hole is a good term. There's probably some rabbit holes we're going to have to avoid.
See how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Yeah. I'll course correct if we need to course correct.
That would be very smart. That would be very smart.
So with that said, let's go ahead and introduce yourself. Nick, you can start.
Nick Bender. I've been a firefighter paramedic. I've been a paramedic for about 5-6 years. Coming up on 6 years. I've been a firefighter for about 4. Got into it because, I wasn't a very good student in high school, if you can imagine. I went to college, and I luckily had a program that had a paramedic program attached to it. So that's kind of how I got into it. And I could never have imagined doing desk work or normal people work, for lack of better words. Normal people work.
Yeah.
So the schedule was always enticing to me. Both my grandfathers were in the service as well. So that was kind of always that's probably what you should do. That makes perfect sense. That sounds like something you'd be okay at. So been doing that for, like I said, about 5-6 years. Mm-hmm. Love it. There's nothing else that I could do. Nothing else I'm qualified for. I could try and play shortstop for the Chicago Cubs, but I'm not qualified for that. So this is a perfect spot for me. I'm very happy. It gives me the freedom I need. I get to do the fun stuff that I want outside of work.
Yeah.
I don't feel too bogged down by work controlling everything, and
cool.
That's why I love the freedom.
Awesome. Well, there's always rec league softball.
I know.
Scratch that itch.
Yeah, that's an itch that I have a hard time with because I know the rabbit hole that it can go in.
Yeah. Then it's like I'm traveling every weekend for.
My brother-in-law, he's a cop, and he's on the PD team, and he's out of town every other weekend. I was like, you have a 3-year-old. How do you do this? This makes no sense.
That's not something that I'll play rec league on Sunday night or whatever. Mm-hmm. But as far as traveling and stuff, nah, I'm just not into it. I'd rather go camping.
Yeah.
So, Scott.
Hello, Scott Bond. 2 years with current department, 7 years total. Did 5 years in the Army as a firefighter. emergency medicine, I guess 5, working in the ER before this. I mean, yeah, Nick pretty much said it all. I can't do desk jobs. I've done desk jobs before. I can't do it. It drives me insane. Yeah, there's nothing else I'd rather do than this. Again, like, except for maybe play second base for the Royals, but I can't hit a curveball, as I come to find out.
Well,
so
neither could Pedro Serrano, but he made it work.
Yeah.
So can't field a major league hit shortstop, or can't field a major league hit ground ball, and
I can field it if it's right at me.
Yeah.
it's right at me.
You make me move too much. We might get into problems. I don't think I'm quite quick enough for that game.
Well, you never know till you
Hence the
try.
reason we're talking about playing softball.
Yeah, softballs. That's right about my speed.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys a question, kind of just get things going, and you can answer separately or together, however you want. But so getting into the fire department, the idea that you had of what it would be and what it is that the same thing for you?
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Yeah.
Yes
Absolutely.
and no.
I think we kind of talked about this the other day. When I was a kid, every time I saw an ambulance, I thought someone was actively dying in that thing every time. So it's been a real adjustment to be like, okay, like this is a much slower pace than you realize, and we're a busier department, but we're not the busiest by any stretch of the imagination. We catch a decent amount of fire we're at, but that's something that you think you're going to do every day. You show up, but it's not. And so it's kind of the other things that play into it that you kind of figure out about the job. And as we know all too well, it's very much EMS based.
Yeah, it is definitely converted over to that.
Yeah,
for sure. For me, it's pretty much what I expected, honestly. When I first, I guess, made it my personal goal to get on to a fire department, I didn't. But while going through the hiring process and working towards getting here, because as we both know, the hiring process normally takes a couple of years. Working at the hospital, I saw what ambulance crews were bringing in. I saw it was the drunk homeless people, grandma whose blood pressure is too low and the nursing home doesn't want to deal with her anymore. I saw a lot of that. I saw what they were bringing in, and I knew going into it that most of my job was going to be EMS based, and most EMS calls are not super exciting. Most calls, period, are not super exciting. But knowing what I know about the departments around here is just why I applied for this one, because we are one of the few that still get fires. We're still one of the few that run crazy, shootings, nasty car wrecks with extrication. We're one of the few departments that still do that on a pretty regular basis. It's just there's a lot more of the other stuff on top of it. And so pretty much what I expected, but still, even with all of the nonsense aside, best job in the world. There's nothing else I'd rather do.
And I knew pretty early that I wanted to work for a bigger city, at least in paramedic school, because it was where I did my clinicals, very suburban county. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is cool. Mm-hmm. But then we would go downtown where we were, and I was like, oh, those guys have a lot of fun. And, I didn't necessarily see the full side of it, but I was like, okay, that's what's worth it. It's the shootings, it's the good car wrecks. Like I don't want to say it's an adrenaline thing because I'm not an adrenaline junkie, but those are the fun calls. Those are the things that we sign up to do. And I couldn't imagine not having those on a month-to-month, week-to-week basis. So that's...
Yeah. Well, you're getting to use the skills that you've spent so much time learning and honing.
Exactly.
So that's one thing that I've heard guys talk about, of being frustrated at slower spots of, I have all this training, I have all these skills, and I'm not getting to use them because all I'm running is, the 2 a.m. toe pain or the grandma that fell or whatever. And not saying those calls aren't valid, because they are, but it's not what we've trained over and over to do. Yeah. And we don't feel... It's very easy to not feel like you're making a difference on that kind of stuff.
End of the day, those calls, we kind of complain about them from time to time, but ultimately, you just gotta be nice to people, and that's a good skill to practice and work on a
What?
regular basis.
You mean be nice and be professional?
Yeah, it just
That's crazy
just be nice.
talk.
Just be nice, and
It's too easy to be nice.
yeah, just that's why you should do
It's
it.
just too easy to be nice.
why you should do
You
it.
have to go. You have to. I feel like you have to make extra effort to be mean. You know.
Yeah, that's a
Just what's the point? What's
Yeah.
the point? We're here. They called us. They need help for something.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's just deal
Yeah.
with it and go home.
Yeah.
Be nice to them.
Yeah.
Because
Be happy that they called us to sort their problems out. Like,
Right.
that's
right.
Yeah.
there are far worse problems to have.
Yeah. Well, there was something you said the other day whenever we were talking at the station, and I'm going to paraphrase because I probably won't get the quote right of what you actually said, but it'll get close. It'll be the ballpark. You made, because we were talking about the ambulance and how a lot of the younger people coming on the job can get burned out on it real fast and see it as like a punishment to have to work on the ambulance and not the fire truck and all that stuff. And you said that you feel like you've helped more people on the ambulance than you ever had on the fire truck.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And most of the
Yeah.
calls where I end up helping people off the fire truck, I end up in the back of an ambulance anyways. So
Yeah.
that's I mean, that's where we make our money. That's where the magics happen. That's where you save lives.
Pumper medic stuff is some of my favorite things to do because you get to do all the cool stuff, and then you turn back around and you go home.
Don't have to
That's
write
the
a
best.
report.
That's the best
Yep.
part.
We don't have to clean an ambulance, and we don't have to write a report. Yeah.
Yeah,
Running serious medical calls off the pumper is probably the
it's the pinnacle of EMS.
the pinnacle of EMS. Yeah, for sure.
That's what you aspire for.
Yep.
Yes, I'm on the pumper for 12. Got
Yep.
it.
All of the dumb calls. Oh, blood pressure. Have a nice day. The serious calls were there for from start to finish.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Running serious medical calls off the pumper. Other than structure fires, of course, is probably my favorite kind of call.
Well, I think that goes without saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Most of us, that's kind of what we got in to do. And,
Mhm.
you know,
that's so weird to explain to people when they're like, well, have you had any fires? Like, it's like, no, like we've been pretty slow. It's like, oh, well, that's good. It's like, no, that sucks. Like,
That sucks.
that's brutal. Like,
yeah.
It sucks.
No, we want somebody's shit to burn down. Yeah, it's a weird dichotomy.
and
of,
people they can't
Yeah.
grasp it. Like, you want that? I'm like, yeah, like,
I want the fire that nobody's going to lose their shit and nobody's going to get hurt.
yes, yeah.
That's what I want.
I always try
And I want to be
explain
alone
it.
for a good like 5 minutes.
Exactly.
I was trying to explain it like people are like, oh, firefighters like fires? That's weird. That's someone's stuff getting destroyed. But if it was your house on fire, do you want the guys to show up? Oh my God. Oh, no, this is the worst thing ever. Do you want the guys showing up? Fuck yeah, let's get some work done. Woo! And then they go to work.
Yeah.
Which fire department do you were responding to your house if it was on fire?
Exactly.
I wouldn't be a firefighter if I didn't like fighting fire. It's literally in the name.
Yeah. It'd be tough to do if you didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are departments that don't go in.
Yeah.
So
We're not one of them.
Yeah, we're
No.
not one of those.
Which goes back to what I said earlier. That's why I applied here.
Yeah, no, I think the firefighting part of it is definitely, at least a majority of us, that's
Yeah.
our favorite thing to do, you know, and it is a weird thing. But still, even in that, if you get there and you do a good job and get the fire out quick, you know, if somebody's called in a reasonable amount of time and you can get there, you can put it out, you can really save a lot of those people's personal belongings that might be irreplaceable.
Yeah.
You know, the pictures, family heirlooms, that kind of stuff. So as long as you're proficient,
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's 2 a.m. and that thing's been burning for forever and we're basically there just to put it out so the other house don't catch on fire.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's fun.
it is
Yeah.
fun.
It's fun. It's like what you said earlier. It's everything that you've trained on because, I mean, as we know in the academy, structure fires are a good chunk of what you do. So you feel like that's what you're most trained to do when you actually get to do it on a real house and a real call. It's a cool feeling.
Yeah, it is. And it's a really cool feeling whenever everything goes right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big
It's
fan-
better when
big
everything
fan.
goes right. It's much better when everything goes right.
Yeah. That's happened, I think, at least once in my career.
Where everything went right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
But that's the beauty of it. Nothing ever goes 100% right, but we just kind of roll with it.
Well, we are problem solvers.
Yeah.
That's basically what we do. Whenever people don't know what to do, they call us. And so
Very
we have
much
to,
so.
figure it out.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of our job
Mm-hmm.
is just, okay, well, this is how you change your smoke detector battery, or, this
We
is,
did 2 of those last night.
yeah.
Mhm.
If you have a headache, you take Tylenol. If you've sprained your ankle, it's Motrin.
No, 140 over 90 is not a scary high blood pressure, I promise.
I can guarantee you it's 3 a.m. Mine looks just like that right now.
It's one of my favorite things to say to completely stable patients. Your vital signs look better than mine right now, because they usually do.
Well, why is that, Bond? Is it because you're stressed?
It's probably because I'm stressed. Also, I definitely play the how much caffeine is too much caffeine game every single morning.
Yeah, we should probably have an intervention for you on that.
Caffeine?
Yeah.
Coffee?
Yeah.
Is it that bad?
I'm gonna take no comment on that one.
As I sat here and drink coffee at 6:30 at night.
Yeah, I was the one that said no to
Yeah.
coffee a minute ago.
Yeah.
I have water for the record, everybody. Thank you.
No, the thing with caffeine is it's just like anything else. Too much of it's not a good thing, and it can cause you to have trouble sleeping, heart palpitations, all that.
It takes a
Good stuff.
lot longer for caffeine to get out of your system than I think anyone realizes.
Yeah.
It's like a good 6 to 7 hours before those receptors are clear and you're not. I mean, you're like, oh, well, I'm still tired. It's like, well, you're tired because you were tired before the caffeine.
Yeah.
And
To be fair, I have set limits for myself with the coffee. It's I really don't have a limit when I'm on the ambulance first, because I'm not going to take a nap.
Yeah.
When I'm on the pupper first and the ambulance overnight, 2 cups. And then no more caffeine. Definitely no caffeine after lunch. 'Cause
Yeah.
I do want to take an after lunch nap and then prepare for the ass kicking that's coming. But when I'm on the ambulance first, I just expect to
game on.
Be out running
It's game
all
on.
day. Yeah, it's game on. I'm getting Red Bulls from the hospitals. I'm asking Nick if he wants to hit the Quick Trip on the way back to get something to drink. And I'm having 3 cups of coffee in the station. It's 10 a.m. and I'm asking if anybody wants some more.
Well, it was a couple
Another
weeks
pot,
ago
yeah.
when we got the new big bags of coffee, and I was like, oh, well, I already have my energy drink, but I got to try the new coffee.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there at the picnic table on the bay. I got an energy drink and a coffee, and I'm just like, wow, I'm double fisting caffeine beverages right now. This is a problem.
Yeah. Not optimal, especially if you want to sleep anytime in the next 24 hours.
No, I mean, I could get through that. What's crazy is the guys who make the pot of coffee after dinner.
That's
That
wild to
blows
me.
my mind.
That's
So,
crazy.
and I will tell you, that was a tradition ever since before I came on the job. Whenever I came on, that was what you did. You're the new guy. You come in the mornings, you make coffee,
Yeah.
and you make sure that it stays full all day long. And then after dinner, you make another pot.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And
guess
it was
that makes
just-
sense.
I can see it. My
That
stepdad
was-
drinks coffee all day.
Yeah.
till
Well,
he
yeah,
goes to
I
bed.
guess I've always seen
Weird.
that at restaurants. People are like, would you guys like some coffee? I was like, it's 9 p.m. I'm trying to leave here. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I guess it's one of those things. It's one of the coping skills or whatever, because guys know that, especially in some spots, they know they're not going to sleep or have a better than average chance of not sleeping.
Yeah, but it always
fair.
seems like truck guys doing it. And they're going to sleep, right?
Easy.
I'm kidding.
We love the truck guys.
Just for the job you want, not the one you have, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all right. You'll get there eventually. You'll
One
get
day.
there. You probably won't, but you might.
No, probably won't. Not unless things change.
We'll see. That paramedic raise is very enticing.
Well, I mean, I would encourage you to do it. Just, it opens up a lot of options.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, I want to, and I will. It's just a matter of when. Probably this year, I'm hoping.
Yeah.
But, I don't have 10 grand just laying around to pay for it. So it's going to have to be through the department.
yeah.
But yeah, I want to do it. I like EMS, like we talked about. I like EMS. I want to know more, do more, and the pay raise is nice. It's just school is so daunting. I hate school so much. I cannot learn in a classroom environment. It's so hard for me.
Yeah, but paramedic school is a lot different than school.
Yeah, but it's paramedic school on top of still working
That's
full
true.
time.
I had a very skewed view of what paramedic school was like, because I was a senior in college, and my job was just to go to school, and
Yeah.
so that was, I definitely had a different view on how it was, but I remember I kept telling myself, I was like, someone dumber than you has figured this out. Someone dumber than you has figured this out. You can get through this.
It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
And that's gotten me through a lot of things that were difficult to me. I was like,
You know, whatever that internal monologue is, that's...
surely you're not the dumbest person to ever go through this. Surely.
My internal monologue is normally, this is not going to last forever.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's
In
true.
a couple hours, I'm going to be back in bed. No matter how much it sucks, I'm going to be back in bed in a few hours.
Yep. Remind me after we get done, I got a couple people that you can talk to about the whole going through the paramedic program and still working. So they might be able to give you some guidance on that.
Deal. I like it.
So let's talk about screen time and depression.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, so we saw that Andrew Huberman bit a while back, and it was like, if you see screen time between like 11 p.m. and 4 a.m., you're at increased risk of depression.
Yep.
And I'm just sitting there looking at my laptop, writing a report at 2:30 in the morning. I was like, oh, maybe this is why you've been dealing with some stuff at the moment. Like, that makes a lot of sense. You should work on this on your days off too.
Yeah. Absolutely should.
Yeah. It's just interesting because, like, we're obviously taking the big steps with, firefighters, EMS with their mental health.
Mm-hmm.
But nowhere in those pamphlets and those talks, it's just like, you're going to be sleep deprived. And that has a bigger effect on everything.
I would say that's a bigger trigger for me than anything, is being sleep deprived.
Yeah.
When I'm extremely tired, stuff that normally I don't care about pisses me off to no end.
Yeah.
And that's when I know it's time to go home.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and unfortunately, that's like the number one contributing factor. I mean, other than seeing all the traumatic stuff that we see, is you see all of that stuff and you're sleep deprived.
Yeah.
So, and then now we find out that the laptops and computers
Mm-hmm.
in our vehicles that we're, using to run calls is not helping the situation either.
Yeah. And, maybe I'm kind of naive in this thought, but we don't see traumatic stuff every single day.
No.
For the most part, but yet we're seeing it on a level of just about, I don't know. I'm sure there's a statistic on it, but most people are dealing with something that is probably a direct cause from being up all night for 2-3 days in a row, and then you get a day off, and then you're right back at it for 1 or 2 days in a row, because we're all working overtime. We're all, trying to make more money, which is part of the trade-off, I guess. But, you don't deal with something traumatic every single shift. You usually deal with crappy sleep every shift.
Yeah.
So I would have to imagine that is playing a bigger role in things than anything else.
So what happens is, when you see that traumatic thing or whatever, and you're able to get good sleep and you're able to deal with it and process it. So getting good sleep is kind of like, it does something with your brain where if you think about those negative thoughts and everything is like a poison.
Mm-hmm.
So it's able to get those toxins and everything out of your brain, right? Get that good sleep. So you take the traumatic call that you haven't dealt with,
Mm-hmm.
and then you throw crappy sleep on top of it. So then it just is moving it. It's not moving it to the part of your brain where it needs to be. Yeah. It's leaving it up in the front, and that's where you start to develop that depression, that PTS that can develop into PTSD, and yeah, I mean, the being sleep deprived, it's going to happen, especially when you work a 24-hour shift, and there are departments, like there's one close to us that a friend of mine works at, and they work 48s because they do that weird Berkeley schedule thing.
Yeah.
48.
Yeah.
72 or...
Yeah, it's like 24 on, 24 off, 24 on, 24 off, 48 on, and then like 5 off or something.
Yeah.
I've never worked that, but I don't think I'd like it.
It's usually, because first days are usually pretty, I don't want to say rough, but like that's usually the day where you're coming back to normal, coming back to your baseline.
Sleeping
and then
a
that
lot.
second day is like, oh, okay, like what do we got to do? Like what can I get done today?
Right.
And you can get those things done, and you could easily have a little more oomph going forward. But you were kind of can't remember exactly what you're wording, but I've had days recently where we're talking about sleep where it's like, okay, like I didn't sleep last night. I worked an overtime day the day before that. So I'm pretty tired at this point and kind of getting a little irritable that next day. And I'm like, wait, you just need to take your medicine. You need to go to bed, like get some sleep. And usually I'll wake up kind of in the middle of the night and be like, oh, okay, like you're good, like go back to sleep. But like that's what it was. And I think we have a lot of new people coming in and we talk about their mental health, but we don't talk to them about like, hey, like you have to find a way to make up for this somehow, even if it's 2-3 hours in the morning when you get off. Yeah. Versus, well, I'm going to go to. Yeah. I mean, we had a pretty easy night last night.
Last night was awesome.
Yeah. I still went home and took a little 2-hour nap. I was
Same.
like,
yeah.
Yeah.
The shift before that, I was out all day, sleeping all day.
Yeah, I think it boils down to what you have to find something that works for you. So like the coming home after shift and going right to bed, I can't do that.
Really?
Yeah, it messes me up for the whole day. Like I wake up, I'm still tired, and then I feel like I didn't do anything or get anything accomplished. Because like my typical routine whenever I come home is I come home, I get changed, say hi to the wife and the dogs, then I'll get a workout in and get a shower and then do whatever I need to do for the day, and I'm starting my day like after the workout, all that stuff by 9:00 in the morning, typically. And so that way by noon, I'm done with everything that I need to do. And then I might take like an afternoon nap or something. But yeah, the going back to bed thing right whenever I get home, it never works out well for me.
Well, I think everyone kind of finds their own little groove and whatnot. And I think I started that way about 4 years ago, and I was like, hey, this works pretty well for me. Like, things usually go better when I do that. And like, I'll get home some days and I'll like write down some things that I need to do. And sometimes it's as simple as like do the dishes. Like it could be something that simple. Like, like things that like you just for the sake of like, okay, I did something. Like, obviously I try and do more than that, but like just simple things, it's just like cross off. It's like, okay, like this wasn't a total waste of a day, but man, if we didn't have to work that next day after, what was that, last Tuesday? I probably would have slept till 2-3 o'clock.
Yeah, for sure.
We had a long one.
That was probably one of the roughest nights
in a while.
Yeah. And then we turned around and
you
worked
guys
our normal shift.
Oh.
Yeah, it was overtime shift, and it was just somehow ended up working together. That was weird on a completely different ambulance than we normally work on. But we were up all night. Just
a couple overtime sluts, just doing our thing.
Yep. I showed up and I was like, "Oh, you're here today," and he was like, "Yeah, we're actually partners today." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that works."
I took overtime to get away from you.
No. We work well. We figure it out. We have a good time.
I think we have a good ambulance crew dynamic. It's a
partnership in suffering.
Yeah. During the day, it's it's a lot of banter and it's good times with patients and flirting with grandma, like you said.
Yep. And that's 90% of EMS, flirting with grandma. Can't flirt with grandma, you can't do this job.
Exactly.
That I think you need to make that a shirt.
Yeah, that's what I've been telling all the new guys that we've been having. It's like
flirting with grandma.
Yeah.
And they're like, huh? Just talk to people. Yeah. Just start talking, and then if you run out of things to say, that's fine. But like, let's just see how you talk to strangers.
So since you brought that up, I'd like to get you guys' viewpoints on training the new guys, the new people.
Whew.
So, I mean,
how much time do you have?
Well, I got a while because it's only 6:36, so we got plenty of time.
Plenty of time. Okay.
I was actually talking with Chris about this earlier. And, whenever we had those, you probably weren't there. No, you were off because we didn't have any FTOs that day.
Oh, was it that day that took a vacation day?
Yeah.
It was like the first batch of new kids' very first day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I took a vacation day that day.
Yeah, and I walked out into the kitchen and I'm like, hey, who wants to be an FTO? And I just got the look.
And everyone said no.
Yeah.
Because it's very difficult and not worth the money.
Yeah. But it's also, if you don't train them, then who will?
Exactly. And that's kind of the way I look at it. don't do it for the money because, I mean, to FTO, I think I get paid like $1.30 something an hour on top of my normal pay to be an FTO.
It gets you in check.
It gets me in shack, and
That's
I
not
mean,
bad.
if it's going like it is now, where I have a student every day, and then even days I work overtime, I have a student. It ends up to be a couple $100 a paycheck. It's worth it for sure, but I don't do it for the money. I do it because I like having competent employees that work with me. I like being on calls. I mean, we've all seen it. You've been on scenes where there's someone there that doesn't know what the hell they're doing, and it makes the call more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's a simple medical call and you just got to carry him out on the tarp. That person doesn't know how to carry him out on the tarp. You're going to have a rough time doing it. And that 3 a.m. routine call is now a pain in the ass because someone there didn't know what they were doing. And I mean, we put a lot of pressure on new guys. I mean, it's very possible to end up in the front seat of an ambulance by yourself on the way to a hospital that you've never been to before with a dying patient in the back, and it's up to you to get there. And you're the only one. There is no help. There's not a paramedic in the passenger seat helping you navigate. There's not, a captain in the passenger seat telling you what to do. It's all completely on you. Everyone else is in the back with a patient. It's not unheard of. It happened to me. 2 weeks out of the academy, the first time I drove from the hospital was from way up north to downtown. And I mean, it was a 15, 20-minute transport running lights and sirens. And the kid, I mean, I had a 9-year-old in the back of my ambulance having a stroke, which now, more calm and collected, brand new, fresh out of the academy, was terrifying. I had a dying kid in my ambulance.
Yep.
And it was completely up to me to go 15 minutes to the hospital with no help. My FTO was in the back with a paramedic working on the patient. We got there way before the pumper did, and we scooped and went, so we had no help. And I kind of think of that when I'm training these new kids. Like, a lot of them come out, full of piss and vinegar, wanting to fight, the biggest fire ever by themselves, and they're ready to do the job and they want to do it, but they kind of got to slow down and remember that they're new. I'm still new. I don't know anything still, but they come out with this sense of arrogance, and you kind of got to humble them a little bit, or else the job will. A good chunk of them come out already humble, knowing that they don't know shit and are willing to learn. I really like those.
I think as being able to train people or training people, it's always better to have those.
For sure. Yeah. It's I can work with dumb just as long as you have a good attitude. You want to learn stuff.
It's hard being new in general because people are like, "Oh, we'll ask questions." It's like, well, I don't really know what questions to ask.
Yeah.
I don't know what I don't know.
Exactly.
And that's very hard to. So that's why it's tough to get too hard on a lot of these new guys because a lot of cases they don't know anything. They haven't worked in an ambulance. They haven't worked on a fire truck. So it's kind of just day one, slowing them down and just kind of going through the basic stuff.
This is where you put the key. You turn the key and the ambulance go vroom.
Well, and
you have to break it down that much.
Well, and
It's overwhelming. I remember my first day. It wasn't that long ago. It's completely overwhelming to walk into a fire station with a group of guys that are already established and they know each other and they're buddies. And you're the new guy, and you don't know, and you not only do you not know anybody in the station, but you don't know a damn thing about your job, and that's terrifying. And I'm a big fan of baptism by fire. I wish everyone's first call off of a fire truck was a working structure fire, and I wish everybody's first call on the ambulance was a shooting. But it's not like that. You kind of got to ease into it with a lot of people. And that's why, on their first day, I don't let them drive because they're going to be too amped. They're going to be, blowing red lights at 70 miles an hour, T-boning somebody and killing them. That's why I don't let them drive their first day. I show them how to drive before I let them drive. We show them how to do...
You're not supposed to wreck ambulances?
No.
Okay, sorry.
Not.
Moving on.
That's yeah. We'll
Moving
just move right past that.
Move right past that.
So, I being the brand new kid was not that long ago for me, and I remember what it was like. So I try and keep that in mind when training them, that they're going to be super excited. They're going to be amped. Like the new kid that we had yesterday, you should have seen the shit-eating grin he had on his face when we were about to go to a non-emergency sick call at a nursing home that we run 4 or 5 times a day. Like, they're still excited and they're still enthusiastic about the job. And I try and play off of that, but not let it become an issue, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like,
you have to temper it and bring them down a little bit,
Right.
but you don't want to tamp that enthusiasm.
It's the fine line between not killing their enthusiasm and letting them know that this is probably not exactly what they thought it was going to be.
Right.
And keeping them in a position where they can still be enthusiastic and excited, but not in a position where that enthusiasm or excitement is going to interfere with the process of running the call. Them driving, if they're, working on the patient, I tell people, we have those 3 phases for the training. You got the observation phase, the instruction phase, and the evaluation phase. So in the instruction phase, I tell them, first couple of calls, you're going to stand there and you're going to watch me do everything. You're going to see how it's done. You're going to see how I talk to the patients, see how I drive, all that fun stuff. Then once you enter the instruction phase, kind of give you a little bit more leeway. You're doing the thing. I'm just kind of telling you what to do as you do it. And then in the observation phase, I'm not telling you a damn thing. I'm standing there, and if I open my mouth, it's to prevent you from killing the patient. And that's kind of how I ease into it.
Yeah.
I think it's worked so far. I mean, I've only had a few batch of students, but I think most of them are pretty solid.
Yeah, it's the crawl, walk, run.
Exactly. Yeah.
And,
exactly.
I think we would all benefit from that in more areas of training within the fire service.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I mean, I know, academies and stuff are supposed to kind of be your crawl phase, but then depending on, how your OJT cycle runs or whatever, it might be run right after your crawl.
Well, it's interesting because we talk about crawl, walk, run, but like it's also like trying to teach these people to slow down.
Yeah,
it's very difficult. And like the last guy we had was just like, if you're ever confused, just slow down. Like going faster usually makes things worse.
Yeah,
and that could be driving. That could be trying to find a piece of equipment that you looked at in the morning, but now it's 2 a.m.
Yeah,
and now you're not really sure, and so you're thinking and you're fumbling and.
Well, it's being able to manage that adrenaline.
Yeah, it's the slow is smooth, smooth is fast. I love that phrase. Like,
yep,
I had
smooth is fast.
The
words to live by right there.
First pediatric code I had, I was ball of mess. It was our captain came down the stairs holding it like a football and was like, "Here you go," and I was like, "Oh crap." And this was probably like 3.5 years ago, and like I'm trying to get the intubation stuff ready, and I'm just fumbling through it. And luckily, our driver was a experienced paramedic. He's been around. He goes, "Slow down," and like I still hear that all the time. Like when I do start to feel myself get picked up, and it's like, "Slow down." Like going faster usually doesn't. Obviously, you need sense of urgency, but most of the time,
there's a difference between
going
sense
faster
of urgency and rushing.
Doesn't help.
Yeah.
Rushing doesn't help.
Yeah.
It's just like panicking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anybody, you show up on an emergency scene and there's someone there that's panicking, they are now useless.
Yep.
They need to go away.
Yep.
They're making things worse. And that's our job to not be the ones panicking.
Yeah. Well, you can kind of equate that or, do a little comparison. You guys remember Le'Veon Bell, right?
Yep.
The running back, his style, where he would just kind of wait behind the line and then go.
Yep. Wait for the hole to open.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what you got to do is you got to be patient and let stuff develop. And, rushing into stuff, like you said, it's usually not going to have a great outcome. So.
Yeah.
Yep. And one thing that I've learned, it's that medical stuff does not happen immediately. None of it does. It's all of it is a process. And the best way to make it happen the fastest possible is to just stay calm and just focus on what you're doing. If we run a code or a shooting or something, serious, pick a job. You're on airway. You're on compressions. You're setting stuff up for the medic. You're grabbing stuff out of the bag. And just focus on that. You're not working a code. You're just managing someone's airway. It kind of, to me, in my mind, helps break things down and keep things a little bit more simple, especially on chaotic scenes. I mean, we've all seen it. Family members are yelling and screaming, and
Yeah.
And
Well, and if you give everybody a job, everybody a task, and
Right.
it's just that one task, have them do that.
Yep.
And then you don't have to worry about them. And, and everybody does have a job on a scene like that. It's the paramedic's job to do paramedic shit, and it's the EMT's job to do EMT shit, and it's the firefighter's job to fit in where they can get in, and it's the captain's job to make sure that the family doesn't interfere with the guys doing the work.
Yep.
And a lot of the times on scenes, all of that is assumed without talking.
Exactly.
Someone goes to the bag and starts grabbing stuff. Someone goes to the head and starts managing airway. Somebody gets on the chest, starts doing compressions. The paramedic, sets up the IO gun, whatever they need to do. And going back to the training thing that we were talking about, it's translating what you can do once you've worked with that crew enough. Like me and Nick, like I said, during the day, we're talking to the patients, we're having a good time. In the middle of the night, we don't say a damn thing to each other. We can run an entire call and not say a word to each other because we worked with each other enough. I know what he wants. I know how he likes things done. I know what he's going to do probably before he even thinks about it. And it helps to be preemptive. And translating the what needs to be done from what you're doing is I guess the challenge. Getting them to think 2, 3, 4 steps ahead is challenging but important, especially as the EMT on the ambulance. It's your, we get toned out to something for a chest pain. Before we even leave the hospital, I'm thinking, where is this call? Where's my closest STEMI center? How am I getting to the call? How am I getting to the STEMI center? Let's say we get there and it's worst case scenario and they're having a full-blown heart attack. And we need to go. I already know what I'm going to do before I even get there for worst case scenario. And then if, we get there and it's just a little bit of chest pain, a little bit of difficulty breathing, not nothing crazy. Their stats are still good. Their vital signs are still good. And then they want to go to a different hospital and we change it. But thinking 2 or 3, 4 steps ahead is where I like to get people before I, release them to the wild.
Proper preparation prevents piss poor performance.
I like it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy how that works out,
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Nick.
I thought I had a thought, but
He does that a lot.
went right out my head.
And he thinks of stuff and then he doesn't.
Thinks of stuff.
Yeah.
What was the other... Didn't we talk about some other stuff that we were going to talk about?
I feel like
sure we
We've
did.
been planning this for like a month and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, we were big talking about the light exposure stuff and
Yeah.
obviously like the sleep related stuff. So I think that was kind of the big ones that we were that kind of got you to be like, oh, like we could have a conversation about this. And,
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on it, but like it makes perfect sense. And,
Yeah. Well,
you know.
and I think we had talked about it in doing research for that, I'd watched a couple of other of his videos on, because he's got a whole line of stuff
he's
about
awesome.
how light affects you and, the healing properties and this and that and the other thing. But I read a study about like light pollution and how,
Yeah.
I wish I could remember the numbers, but it's like 60 or 70% of Europeans cities that's light pollution, and then like 50 or 60% of Americans the same thing,
Yep.
light pollution. And kind of what they were talking about was how it's upsetting the circadian rhythm, and which is in turn, as we talked about earlier, leading to mental problems, or exacerbating mental problems.
Well, the light pollution tends to happen more at night related stuff and like that.
Well, yeah, but they were talking about even going to bed with the TV on.
Oh, that's my biggest pet peeve.
Yeah.
I sleep in a closet basically at the station, so it could be nice and dark.
Not
for me.
basically, it is
It
a
is
closet.
a closet. It's a
It
maintenance
really
closet
is
at
a
that.
maintenance
Like,
closet.
Oh, the one in the back upstairs?
Yeah, so there's the two. And
Yeah.
this one is an actual room, and this one's like a boiler room, but it has a
Yeah.
bed in there. I was like, I'm going to take the boiler room.
I saw that. I was working overtime
Uh-huh.
as a firefighter, and I was upstairs looking for a room, and just happened to walk past, and I looked at that, and I was like, yeah, I'm not sleeping in there.
I mean, there's some things about it that I don't like, but it gets dark, and I like that. Because, I mean, when I'm at home, we sleep in our basement. Like, it just kind of worked that way. When we moved in, my father-in-law had the master bedroom. We weren't going to live in the bedroom across from my father-in-law for obvious reasons. And
I mean,
so we moved in the basement, and he moved out, and we were like, I guess we should move our stuff upstairs. And came home after a long night at work one day. I was like, it's pitch black down here. I'm not moving anything. And
Blackout curtains. Blackout curtains are life.
Blackout curtains. So, like, I mean, I'm used to when I go to bed, it is pitch black. But like, I mean, they say like even a little bit of light in like your bedroom can completely throw off your circadian rhythm sleeping, and like melatonin release and all that. So it's like,
it's probably my problem.
which in turn affects your brain chemistry, which in turn affects how you process things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sleep is our superpower.
It's pretty great. I wish I appreciated it more as a kid.
It was one of those things where like I like saw like one video on like the importance of sleep. I was like, okay, you want me to commit to sleeping?
Yeah.
Done.
Right.
Done.
Not a hard sell on that.
No,
huh?
not at all. Not at all.
Sleep more and all of my problems will be solved. Say less.
It's not that it solves your problems. It just makes it easier to solve said problems.
Something like that.
It's
Sure.
It's an obstacle that you don't have to overcome.
Yes.
So, yeah, dude, I mean, whenever you start talking about, everybody's sleep cycle being fucked up, and then, okay, well, I've got all these problems and now I need to be in therapy. Well, okay, sleep has to be, I got to get my sleep right. Or all of this therapy and all this stuff is, I mean, it may be semi-effective, but not super effective. Well, then, okay, well, now I need sleeping pills.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Those aren't much better.
no. Because
That's not fixing the problem.
it's not.
Yeah.
I wish I would have marked it down, because one of the books I recently read, they were talking. He's a psychiatrist, and he was like, it was basically came down to, he was like, the first things I do to people is say, "Are you sleeping?" Like,
Yeah.
like let's knock that out, and then we're gonna work on other things. And like, there was a stat to go with it that like a large majority of suicides happen from like 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. because you should be sleeping. Like, that would solve a lot of, obviously it wouldn't solve if there's something tragic going on, but like, it's like, let's start there. Like, can we nail that down? And it's easier.
It's step one.
It's easier
step one
said
to
than
fixing
done.
things. It's just sleep more.
Because I mean, we've all lied in bed thinking about whatever's bothering us, but
Terrible.
usually
It's
it was
the most
like,
awful thing ever.
you're usually able to sort it out in the morning better than you are at 2 a.m.
After a cup of coffee.
And a Red Bull and a
and
Monster.
a Red Bull and a Monster.
What did we say on a call? We ran like an assault or something at like 4 a.m. a couple weeks ago, and I was just like, we looked at the PD who showed up. It was like, don't these people just know if they went to bed these problems wouldn't happen? Like,
so many problems where if you were just in bed right now, this wouldn't be happening.
Nothing good happens after 11 p.m.
11. I would have said 2, but 11's pretty good too. I like it.
So the study that I read was talking about, obviously light pollution and all that stuff, but the way that we have evolved as a species or whatever, we would go to bed whenever it got dark, which is what, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at the
4:30
latest.
right now.
Yeah. Getting close to that. But, you would have that sleep, so you were able to get into that REM sleep and all that stuff. And then when the sun came up, the light woke you up. You got up and you went about your day. Mm-hmm. Well, now with the artificial light, all that stuff, we're staying awake longer, past where we should be, and we got blackout curtains and all that stuff. So we're staying asleep longer into the day, usually. So, and that's jacking that circadian rhythm. And then so you get out and you only have X amount of hours of sunlight, whereas if you would have got up when the sun came up, you would have had so much more.
And Huberman talks about like early morning sunlight, like being critical to set yourself up. So when it's time to go to bed, you're like, oh, okay, like you saw the sun at 8:30 in the morning. Like, come 9 o'clock at night, your brain's like, I should probably go to bed so I can see that sun in the morning. And
dude, I mean, and I'll tell you, for myself personally, I always feel better whenever I go to sleep earlier and wake up earlier.
Definitely.
For
sure.
If I'm in bed between 9 and 10 or, 10:30 and then I wake up at 5, I'm good to go all day long.
Yep.
It's those nights where I stay up until midnight, 1 o'clock, whatever, and then don't get up until 8 or 9.
Yeah.
And then it's like I just feel off
Yeah.
for the rest of the day.
Yeah. I will say I try and see the sun in the morning almost every single day. Even like days like we're talking about getting done with shift and going home, like the first thing I'll do is I'll get up, I'll just walk around my neighborhood. One little quick 10-minute lap, and I was like, okay, like you're ready to start your day. Like, yeah, you just slept till 11:30 noon, but like you're kind of getting the ball rolling in the right direction to where you're going to at least be able to be productive and frankly feel better.
Yeah.
There's it's interesting how much the sun plays a role in your mental health.
Oh, yeah. Well, vitamin D and all kinds of stuff that you get from the sunlight that you don't get from anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. And it's not the same as taking vitamin D pills. Like,
No.
I mean, yeah, they're worthwhile and there's reasons to do it, but like seeing the sun is
pretty
great. Critical.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah.
Just sit in the sun and do nothing.
Yeah.
Why do you think people in Seattle are so fucking depressed?
Yeah.
Because they never see the sun.
Probably a bunch of reasons. I'm sure that's one on the list of things.
So how have you guys now? You've done what'd you say? 5 years? 6 years?
I think I'm coming up on 6 years as a
6
medic.
years. And then you did time
7 total, but really 2 doing it
Yeah.
daily.
I would
hitting
say
it hard every day where it's, you know, it's my career. It's what pays the bills, probably.
I would say I've been a medic a little over 5, but like actually doing it probably 3.5 to 4 because the first few years I was running transfers and no offense to that, but that's not what I wanted to do.
Different.
Yeah.
It wasn't the same by any stretch.
So what steps have you guys taken, or how do you treat your mental health?
This is one that for me, like as of recently, like pretty never really had too much problems with it, but like probably the last couple months, and I think I kind of got away from some of the things that was helping it, and I was like kind of low for lack of better words, you know, and I was like, okay, like sleep, like, you know, like if you get your ass kicked all night, you gotta get that sleep in. You gotta find a way to recover, see the sun, go for walks outside of just going to the gym, because you know that's exercise, yes, but it's inside. You're not really dealing with it. I've been reading a lot. That's been helping instead of spending all my free time playing video games, which I'm very good at spending my time doing that. It's very easy to do. We had quite the day at the station a couple days ago.
Yeah.
That helps because it kind of just allows me to think about things other than just amping up my anxiety more than it needs to go. And those things have definitely helped for me. And I think those are things that a lot of new people could kind of benefit to learn before they become a problem. Because like there'd be even days where like, oh, you know, like I slept 4 hours straight at the station. Like I'm good to go. Like, oh, just pound that coffee or take my pre-workout, head straight to the gym, and then like noon, I'm like, I'm sad. Like, like why am I sad right now? You know, because it's a Tuesday and no one else is around to hang out with.
Yeah.
So, and that's another one is spend time with people.
Time with people outside of the job.
Outside of the job, at the job. Outside of the job's a big one, but like it's easy to, if you're having a kind of shitty day going into work, to, oh, well, I got my own room. Like I could just go chill by myself. Like I'm an only child. I know how that works. And then it's just like, okay, like that kind of compounded that. But then like you make the effort to just sit at our picnic table, like that we have in the bay. Like I get tons out of that. Like usually
that's
feel
my
better.
favorite part of the job is sitting in the bay.
Yeah, kitchen table, just shooting the shit. Like that does so much for my mental health. Because like a lot of times, like stuff from other people's life kind of spills into it. I was like, oh, okay, like you're normal. Like you're all figuring this shit out together. Like it takes some effort, and
yeah,
I think that's something I've had to learn rather recently, really. So
the sitting around and talking around the table and all that stuff, that sense of camaraderie, you guys
phenomenal.
think is huge.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, it goes so far.
Yeah,
I think it's a huge
sure.
reason why I love the job so much. I mean,
Yeah, I can tell you this. So whenever we started doing all of the remodels in the stations and everybody getting their own bunk and that kind of stuff, that was one of the things that went away super fast, was that everybody hanging out together.
Yeah.
Like hanging out in the kitchen together or in the day room or, out in the bay or whatever. Most of the stations that I worked at or would get detailed to, it would be you'd see everybody in the morning, then they're in their room.
Yeah.
And then you'd see them at lunch, then you'd see them at dinner, and then you wouldn't see anybody else for the rest of the day.
Right.
And before that, whenever it was a common bunk room and all that stuff, people hung out a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it seemed like there was that little bit better of a bond.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
I totally get that. We're at a pretty big house. I mean, we got 12 guys there every single day.
Yeah.
Coming from my old job, it wasn't uncommon to be at a station with 3 people. Like,
Yeah.
it's really easy to just, well, he's watching TV in there. I don't really want to watch what he's watching, and
Yep.
just go in my room, and you kind of, next thing you know, you spend the whole day by yourself. And so it was easier to get away. And I know we have stations like that, and not a 3-man station, but 4 is still very few people. And yeah, that goes a long way.
That is one thing I like about working in a big station. There's always someone to hang out with, something to do.
Yeah.
But,
And I spent most of my career in single engine houses.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, me and 3 other people. And it's easy to, I'll go hang out in my room today.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go hang out in my room again. I'll go hang out in my room again. Then before you know it, that's all you're doing, and that's all everybody else is doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we're both only children, so
I am very good at entertaining myself for long periods of time.
I mean, it sounds weird, it sounds ridiculous, but I'm very lucky. Both my parents were always around for the most part, but
mine weren't. Just one.
I feel like we could
have
just
this
a
conversation
whole
with your
podcast.
therapist, Scott, not us, please. No, I'm kidding.
My therapist is tired of hearing about it.
I'm sure he is. Just kidding. But no, it's interesting because I ended up having a lot of friends who are only children, and it's weird how it kind of works out. It's like we're just a bunch of weirdos who had to talk to ourselves to get through days every now and then, and now it's just like, oh, you have the same weird thoughts as me. Like this works really well.
Self-entertaining thoughts, I like to call them. It's just thoughts that I have that I can expand on for 2 or 3 hours, and it's my entertainment. Just going on weird rabbit holes on the internet.
We are very much children of the internet.
Researching something.
I am well aware.
Figuring it out. Yeah. I don't know. I like to think I'm like the best of both worlds, because I definitely grew up with the going out and playing in the neighborhood and be home by the street by the time the street lights are on. But I was also, playing video games a lot.
Yeah. We were the OG of Xbox Live.
Absolutely. These kids on Modern Warfare 2 today don't know. They don't know nothing.
Cyberbullying.
They're learning today.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You guys crack me up.
Well, I'm glad I crack you.
Yeah.
That's 90% of what I say shouldn't be taken seriously. It's either to get a rise out of somebody.
Well, the thing is, you think we're funny, but we're not funny. We just talk a lot, so we're bound to say something funny.
Oh.
I call it volume talking.
Accuracy by volume. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
If I throw 100
We
things
never
at the
even
wall,
discussed
one of
that.
them's going to stick.
Yeah. Jeez.
I say 200 things a day. 4 of them are hilarious. It's not a good percentage of hilarious things, but those are the 4 that you remember. That's how I get people to like me. I'm kidding.
Well, but I mean, as far as plans go, it's not the worst one.
Yeah, it's not terrible, but like Nick said, I mean, I didn't even really think about it until we talked about it at work, that, being an only child shapes your personality quite a bit. I'm, like you said, I'm very good at entertaining myself, but at the same time, I don't necessarily want to entertain myself. If it's like going back to working in the big station, there's always someone watching TV. If they're not watching something I don't want to watch, someone in the bay playing video games. They're not playing video game that I want to play. There's someone in the ping pong room. Someone somewhere always doing something.
Yeah.
So if I want to go into my only child recluse natural state, I can go in my room and hang out for 30 minutes and kind of decompress and compose myself. And then if I want to hang out with everybody and discuss the nuances of the war in the Ukraine, I can just go downstairs and do that. And it's nice. It's cool.
Yeah, you kind of nailed it on the head, like with go off and kind of get yourself ready to be around people, because
It
again,
takes a
it's
minute.
that same thing. Like there's times where I'm like, okay, like I've been talking to strangers all day. I want to just I want to not talk to myself in my room, but like I want to like sit down and read a book and kind of
I want to be
alone with
completely
my
alone
thoughts.
for a while.
Yeah. Well, dude, there's so much value in quiet time and meditation and that sort of thing. And if you use that time for that, then you can have such a huge benefit.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one of the things that surf trip that I did this past weekend.
Yeah, I need to hear more about this, because there
What do
were podcast guys that take people surfing, or
No.
I would like to go surfing.
I know you briefly talked about it, but it went
in
one
one
out
ear
the other,
and out the other.
like stable vital signs.
Yeah. Or like anytime I tell you to do something safe, it's just in one ear and out the other. Never mind.
No,
Safety glasses are a myth. They're not real things.
I sarcastically say, "Yes, sir, safety officer."
I don't even tell him stuff anymore. Like if I'm doing something on my own, like taking a blood sugar on a patient, if it's stable and that's not the problem, I don't even tell him what it is.
If it's a normal
he's
blood
going
sugar,
to
don't
ask
tell
me
me
again.
Don't tell me. I don't
He's
even
going
know.
to ask me again. It just goes in one ear, right out the other.
Rob Sanderson, he was a cop over in Kansas.
Okay.
Got hurt, messed up his back, had to get pensioned off, retired. And he's, in that whole process, he had grown up kind of surfing a little bit and decided, hey, there's no program to take people who are struggling. And he goes, surfing is such a great way to decompress and, just
I can see that.
just be out there. He goes, I'm going to start a nonprofit. So he did. It's called the Swell Mission, and that's who I went with. And they take firefighters, cops, veterans on all expenses paid surf trips.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
So
Just got to get out there.
Yeah. Well, no, he
really?
paid for airfare, the rail house, everything.
That's got to be humbling, surfing. There's no way I could do it.
You could. Dude, trust me. If my old ass could get up on the board within 5 minutes of being in the ocean, you could do it.
Gotcha. I think that's another thing is for mental health's sake. Like, do humbling things that aren't work.
Oh, yeah.
Like I love going to the gym. That shit humbles me all the time.
Yeah.
Like people are big into like jujitsu and stuff now. Like I tried and dabbled. I was like, this isn't so
You're
much.
too big for jujitsu.
Well, I mean,
No, it's
that
not.
you would think that
too
would
big
be
for
like a
jujitsu.
thing that would help. It was just
Got to be.
I
a skinny
started,
guy.
and then the academy started, and I just never went back.
Well, I mean,
Fair enough.
you would do okay.
You would
Your
do
arms
fine.
aren't too long.
Aren't
So-
too long. I'm a regular sized dude.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
regular size.
Well, so the reason I say that is 'cause I did it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
If you're tall and thin, it's easier for people to grab a hold of stuff.
Yeah.
And if you've kind of got short arms and shorter legs, it's harder to get those joint locks
Yeah.
on a person of your stature. Whereas a person like me, if they're
You
not
got a lot of
defending-
limb to grab.
Yeah, I got a lot of. There's more to grab there.
Yeah.
So, and long necks, great for choking.
Yep.
So
That's why you see all the guys in prison.
yeah, no necks.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he started that thing, and that was the 13th trip I think that they've done, and he's doing an exchange program. There's a nonprofit in England that basically does the same thing.
Okay.
So they went there last year, the year before, and then they came here, whatever, vice versa it
Yeah.
was. So like every other year, they go back and forth.
Nice.
And, just take guys who have been on the trip before
Mm-hmm.
and say, hey, let's go. We're going to go to England, and we're going to hang out with these cops and firefighters over here that do the same thing. And
That's
then they
gotta be
bring
cool.
people out. So, yeah.
I've heard of like people like going on vacation internationally and see a fire station and like, they just go shoot the shit, and it's just like that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Nobody comes on vacation to our city.
Well, they do. They just don't venture down to where we're at.
Yeah. They'd stay far, far away from that area, most likely. They drive by.
Yeah, on the highway.
On the highway.
We got a
Yeah.
highway that goes
Yeah.
to a nice area.
Yeah. So, but no, and he's the way that he's got it set up, man. So, because I had him on the podcast, we got connected. I think my wife or somebody got us connected and had him on the podcast. And, he broke it down of, we do this and this and this. And, it was a good podcast. And I stayed in contact with him. But even from him explaining it, I didn't really get it. And it's something that I don't think you can really get until you go do it. Because the way that he has that program set up, like we got there on Friday. We got to the rental house. A legit therapist came and talked to us about, showed us some breath work techniques for, decompressing and like yoga and heart math and all these
Everyone
other
sleeps
things.
on yoga. Yoga's so great.
Yeah. And took us out to the beach right there by the beach house. And we did some more breath work stuff there. And then she came back out on Sunday. We did it at the beach again where we were surfing at. And then, she showed us because she's like, okay, you guys need to be doing this and this. And then Sunday we'll reevaluate everything. So then she shows us on Sunday, okay, we're going to do this and this, and then showed us our improvements of what we were on Friday to what we were just
that quickly. There was an improvement. Wow.
Yeah. So, and then also he's got a chaplain that comes out that's out there, and this guy is freaking awesome. He was a SWAT guy, D1 football player, strength coach, just super jacked. I mean,
Sounds terrifying.
Yeah, he is terrifying.
I want to meet him.
Yeah, he's awesome. I think I'm going to try to have him on the podcast. Yeah. So if I do that, it'll be a Zoom, but you're more than welcome to sit in.
Cool.
So he was awesome, and just the whole vibe and everything. We eat together at the house, or, we went out to a restaurant on Friday night, I think. But otherwise, we cooked at the house and just sat there, me and another firefighter and 2 cops.
Sounds like work.
Yeah.
Well, sitting in the bay shooting the shit. Yeah. Work minus the bells.
Yeah.
I love it.
But it's a way to, with having that therapist come out and having the chaplain come out and then having other people there that have been through stuff and that have went through treatment or whatever. I think it helps reduce that stigma for somebody who maybe has went through something recently and is still on the fence about whether or not, giving therapy a try or giving some program a try.
Yeah.
And I definitely think a lot of it might be the stigma left over that, I definitely saw this a lot in the military. Seeking mental health care at all, period, is kind of frowned upon. You're looked at as weaker, you can't handle it, that kind of stuff. And I think now the younger generation, even your generation of first responders, is doing a very good job of breaking through that stigma. It's not suck it up, buttercup. It's okay, what's bothering you?
Yeah.
Well, that's very good. I like it.
It's changing. It's changing slowly. But it's
like everything in the fire service.
Yeah. It takes ground up and top down. This isn't one thing, or this isn't an issue that's going to get changed by administration going, this is what you're going to do. This is mandated, blah, blah, blah. Because
go to therapy, all of you.
Yeah, because you know how that's going to work. Oh, you just got to go to fucking therapy. And
just talking to people about stuff in general. Yeah. You say go to therapy. I've tried getting in for like 2 months, and I'm just happy that I'm a relatively stable person. Because even when I'm supposed to, they're like, hey, this actually happened today. I was supposed to talk to a person today, like, whatever.
Yeah.
And they call, they're like, hey, like, we know it's been 3 weeks when we scheduled and put you off, but she's sick, so can you do the week of Thanksgiving? I was like, I'm happy.
It's in another 3 weeks.
I was like, I'm happy that I'm doing well, because that would really suck for someone who was genuinely struggling. And
well, but don't downplay what you're going through.
No, I know, but like, you know what I mean.
But
it's just like one of those things. It's like,
dude,
man,
it's a flaw in the system, and it needs to be addressed.
I couldn't imagine,
dude. The therapists that I know that specialize with cops and firefighters, they're booked out. My wife, that's almost 100% of her clientele. Cops, firefighters, and veterans.
I didn't know that.
She's booked out to January.
That's nuts.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
And that's working almost 7 days a week. So it's just it seems like there are not enough therapists to go around.
I think they're getting burnt out too.
Yeah,
and
they are.
It seems like they're having the same problem we are. They're overworked and
Underpaid.
getting burnt out and underpaid.
Yeah.
They're having the same problem we are.
Yeah. So that's why it's so important, I think, personally, for us to basically be a peer support team for each other.
Yeah.
Be each other's therapist.
No, we're not going to go that route, but to be able to sit around the kitchen table and have an open and honest conversation about, hey, what's bothering me? I need to get this off my chest, or I'm struggling with this or that. 9 times out of 10, there's probably going to be somebody at your station that has went through something similar, if not the same thing.
Yep.
More than likely, it is the same thing.
Yeah. So but you got to be with the right crew that's okay.
Yeah.
And it's still, there's a lot of places out there where that's not okay. Those conversations don't happen.
Yeah.
What they're going to do is you're going to sit around the kitchen table and talk about the war in Ukraine, or you're going to talk about how the president sucks, or you're going to talk about this or that or the other thing. You're not going to talk about the things that are real, that really matter to you right now in this moment.
Not going to talk about the call from 3 shifts ago that I'm still thinking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think 2 a.m. the ambulance gets a lot of that stuff out.
2 a.m. in the ambulance is extremely therapeutic. Coming back from the hospital in the middle of the night from a call is extremely therapeutic. It's usually we don't say anything to each other throughout the entire duration of the call. It's usually we get in the ambulance and the only words spoken are us telling dispatch that we're responding and whatever we say to the patient. Like we don't have to talk to each other. Like I said earlier, we work well enough together where we don't have to talk. But on the way back from the hospital, especially if it's a wild call, we'll just be driving back and I'll just, Nick, that was pretty fucked up, wasn't it? It was like, yeah, dude, let's talk about that for a minute. And then we hash out a lot of stuff in the middle of the night on the way back to the station. I mean, there's been plenty of times where I'm exhausted. It's 3 o'clock in the morning and we're back and I parked the ambulance in the station. We sit in the ambulance and talk for another minute.
Yeah. But dude, how important, that is so important.
Oh, yeah.
And that's so great that you guys are able to do that for each other.
Yeah. What was I going to say? We were talking about that my first pediatric code. We had the whole pumper came with me on the call. Captain drove the pumper back to the station, and we were pulling up off the side of the highway. We look over to the right, and there's the pumper just sitting in a Taco Bell parking lot. And we look over, and I look at my partner, and I was like, "Oh, I guess they caught a call at Taco Bell." Okay, and I was like, "Wait, they're back." What's going on? And then we get a call. I was like, "Oh, go to station 1." It's like, okay. So we drive to station 1 with our crew, and then the captain rolls in with a big taco box, sets it on the table, and they proceeded to hang out for an hour. She's like, "Well, it's awkward if we just show up without tacos," and we just sat there and ate tacos at 3 a.m. and kind of just hashed through it, and that goes a long way. Talking about something immediately, I mean.
Yeah, that's one of those things. The sooner that you can talk about it, the faster that you can move it from that front part of your brain to the back part of your brain.
Well, and they say that with like traumatic events, the best thing to do is to, like the next day, like put yourself in a similar situation to work through the process.
That I haven't heard.
As in, like, obviously you don't trap yourself in a basement and try and crawl out the window, but like, okay, like kind of talk yourself through the things and kind of work through it so you could at least process what happened and how you could get through it again.
All right.
Here I go quoting Huberman again because I'm a nerd. And he was like, he talked about having like a dive at, he was doing some sort of diving thing and he didn't check a piece of equipment.
Always check your equipment.
Can't imagine anyone ever doing that.
Yeah.
And he had that incident, and like he had to like work his way through it, and he got through it. And they were like, "Okay, tomorrow morning, we're gonna practice that." And they went through and they practiced it. And he was like, "Okay." He's like, "Obviously, I didn't sleep that night, but that next day, I was like, okay, like that's what it was. Like go through the process, and obviously,
that seems like kind of like a version of exposure therapy.
Yeah. That's probably exactly what it is.
Yeah. So that's why a lot of places that if you experience that critical incident or whatever, they try to do that debriefing,
Mm-hmm.
like as soon as possible, because like PTSD, like PTS is 100% natural and normal. Everybody gets it. Don't matter. You can deny it all you want. It fucking happens. You know,
Happens
that's
to
just,
everybody.
yeah.
At least a couple of times in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're like, oh
So-
shit, like that was kind of messed up. Like,
Yeah. But
but
where-
it's just simple.
Yeah. Where it becomes a problem is whenever it is allowed to linger and hang around, and then it
Mhm.
becomes PTSD. But they say that can happen within as little as 7 days. Like if it's not dealt with,
Yeah.
Okay.
depending on the person and what it was, and like all the other stuff the person's dealing with, you know, it can happen fast.
Yeah.
So getting that stuff off your chest and dealing with it as soon as you can, I mean, that's the best way to go about it.
Well, yeah, and if it's a crew wide thing, if you
Yeah.
don't do it the next shift, there's a strong chance in 2 shift, Scott might not be there, you might not be there.
Yeah.
You know, you might be piecing it together, or
Yeah.
that crew together. So if you got everyone there, it's probably the time to do it.
Yeah. Not to
For
mention what's the critical stuff that you're going to run in between then and then.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you're guaranteed of, you know, you're going to run this super shit call on Sunday and then Wednesday rolls around and you're not going to do anything.
Mhm.
No, you're more than likely going to run another super shit call.
You could do damn near the same thing in
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah. Or something worse.
Yeah.
So, I
It's
mean,
always,
we had
it's always the string of bad calls that get to me. There's one time I had child abuse call, like 3 calls involving kids. It was like a car wreck where a kid got hurt pretty bad, a child abuse call where a tiny baby got beat up by dad, and then another one. And they were like all within 2 days. Like I worked overtime and then my regular shift, and they were all within 48 hours of each other. And that, like I was done for like 2 weeks, and I just had to take the time to process that
Yeah.
and figure out how to deal with it. And yeah,
Yeah, it's kid calls seem to be the worst for the
sure.
majority of us.
for sure.
We had one of my old stations. We had 2 infant deaths within 3 shifts, and one of them was like the kid had been born sick,
Mhm.
like I can't remember exactly, heart issue or something like that, and the family was trying to get him to the hospital
Mhm.
and pulled over to gas station. So we show up, and we worked the kid to the hospital, but there was the kid was dead. And then the other one was piece of shit mom, drunk, the 3 or 4-year-old. I don't know if mom turned on the bathtub or the kid turned on the bathtub or whatever, but the 18-month-old ended up in the bathtub face down. And dad was working from home. It was during COVID, and water starts running in the basement. So he runs upstairs to see what's going on.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and we had those 2 calls within 3 shifts. And
It's
like,
crazy because so many people report that same thing. How, like, obviously there's no rhyme or reason to it,
Yeah.
but it just,
It feels like the craziness comes in waves. There'll
It
be
does.
like 3 or 4 shifts where we have a fire every day. There'll be 3 or 4 shifts where we have a car wreck that needs extrication every day.
Mm-hmm.
And
or you have those days where the only thing you run is gas calls,
yep,
you know, or the only thing you run
gas
is
calls.
lift
We missed
assists.
the fire of the decade because of a gas call, and I'm still mad about it. I'm still mad about it.
Yeah, well, you know, it was,
Yeah, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to. No.
it wasn't that bad.
Uh-huh.
Wasn't that fun?
Whatever.
we would have been there for a good like 5-7 minutes.
We would have
before
been there
anyone else would have
alone
got
for
there.
a minute. It would have been us. Oh, God, all right. We're done talking about that because I'm still mad about it.
Sounds
Still
like
mad about it.
you need to process that, Scott.
I do need to process it. I need to take it up with the Spire dig team that drove right on past us. That's who I need to take it up with. 10 minutes before the fire dropped.
Oh, yeah, that kind of sucked. I'd been in the district a day, 2 days.
I think it was your second or third shift. Yeah, you're brand new to the district.
Yep. I'm like, where's that? Chief's like, it's right there. Go.
Yep.
Cool.
All right.
I did want to ask you about how your military time has affected, or do you think it has affected you into the fire service?
It makes the fire service way easier. The fire service is the Army. It's Diet Army. All of the bullshit that we deal with is not as bad as the bullshit that you deal with in the Army. All of the sleep deprivation, all of the things that make the fire service difficult are not as difficult as those same things are in the military. You know, it's seriously like administrative, bureaucratic nonsense that goes on. It takes forever to get stuff done. It's way worse in the Army. You know, you have you're sleep deprived. I'm sleep deprived for a day. There was times in the military where I'd go 2 or 3 weeks and only sleep an hour a day, period. There was, and I mean, being uncomfortable, being gross, being, you know, I haven't showered in a couple hours. We just, you know, caught back-to-back calls and I haven't taken a shower. This is going to sound disgusting. I've gone 35 days without showering before. This ain't shit to me. So the Army definitely prepared me for the fire service immensely. It's the diet Army.
I feel like a lot of guys.
It's more fun. I love it. I like it way more. It's way better of a career, in my opinion. But as far as the things that make it difficult, it's all of the same stuff, just not as bad.
I feel like everyone I know in this fire service that was in the military, you guys just have a knack for suffering better than everyone else.
It made me into a masochist. I mean, especially during the winter. Like, I was in a cold weather warfare unit. If it was below 20 degrees, I was outside sleeping in a hole that I dug that day. This is too easy for me.
They give you a bed here.
Yeah, they give me a bed.
They bought me a pillow
with central heating and air that works usually.
Sometimes.
Cool. Okay.
I know what station you're at.
And I get paid like 4 or 5 times more to do this than I did in the military. Yeah, this is it definitely, all of the things that I need to be good at for the military, mental toughness, sleep deprivation, functioning under stress, all of that was instilled in me in the military, just in a much higher degree and a much more serious tone to everything. It was far less relaxed, which I like that, you know, our job is more relaxed. But it's, yeah, like I said, it's the diet military. It's everything that I thought was cool about the military is also cool about the fire service, and everything that I didn't like about the military is also there, just not as bad.
So you feel like it prepared you?
Absolutely.
Well.
100%.
How did college prepare you for a life in the fire service?
It didn't prepare me for anything. No. I have the most expensive paramedic license. So that's all I have to say about that. I had a blast. Do not get me wrong. I enjoyed my time very much. Made lifelong friends, met my wife. But I did not need to go to college. Well, hopefully it will pay off in 15 years. But for now, it's...
Why 15 years?
I'm just assuming at some point, if I am able to promote, they'll be like, oh, you have a degree. Cool. And that will be a check.
I also have a degree, and I got it for free.
Yeah. I did not.
Did you really get it for free, or did you have to pay?
Well, now I have chronic knee pain.
Seems like you paid for it.
I didn't pay money. I paid with knee cartilage, which is cheaper, if you ask me.
Wait until you hit about 40, and you might revise that statement.
Fair enough.
So, all right, guys. Well, this has been a blast.
It's been a great time.
Thank you for having us.
Not quite. I thought we might get off a little bit on some.
We didn't go on too many rabbit holes.
We discussed this morning when we were leaving the station. It's like there are things that we need to keep dialed in because
the 2 a.m. in the ambulance on the way home from a call conversations are far more unhinged than this was.
Yeah.
So
we're just proving that we could keep it together.
Yeah. I can be professional sometimes for periods of time.
Well, I appreciate that.
Of
but
course.
Also, hey, you know, sometimes a rabbit hole or two.
We're conspiracy guys, so you didn't want that to come out.
I'm a conspiracy guy. Do you want to hear a theory about the simulations?
No, we can't. We cannot.
We can't unleash that upon the world yet.
So let's do this. Let's put a pin in this episode.
Deal.
I'll have you guys back, and it will be the conspiracy episode.
We can have a conspiracy episode.
Can we do it Joe Rogan style when they like dim the lights? We wear like NASA suits and
I mean, you guys can wear whatever you want.
I
And
mean,
yes,
I'm
we can dim the
definitely
lights a
going to
little
wear
bit.
a NASA suit, and we should probably be drinking for it. I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I'm kidding. These are jokes. You guys killing me.
they're not funny jokes, man. I'm a recovering alcoholic.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm a recovering gambling addict. So Kansas, legalizing the sports betting has been extremely detrimental to me. I'm kidding. These are all jokes. Remember when I said earlier, nothing that I say should be taken serious? This is a perfect example of that. You're chuckling. That's my goal.
Yeah. I laugh all the time.
Volume talking.
Volume talking.
Accuracy by
there
volume.
you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean,
Full circle.
I just said a million things and 3 of them are funny.
here's what you do. You take all those million things, the 3 things that are funny, you start stacking those things together, and then pretty soon you have, 30 minutes of stand-up.
Yeah. And then
I may or may not have worked on my minute of stand-up in the past.
Go on.
What?
I haven't,
Go
put
on.
it out there. But, I have a minute that I'm
think
working
it's time.
I think it's
it's
on.
time.
It's not worked on.
It is.
It's not
it
fully
is.
fledged
I
out.
think it's fully fledged out.
It's my bit about how I'm jealous of cigarette smokers.
Oh, I've heard this one. This is good.
No, it's
Go
not
on.
bad.
No,
No.
this is good.
No,
I've heard
that's
this.
for the next
It's
episode.
good.
you've
All
said
right.
no. The next episode is the conspiracy episode.
Well, basically, it boils down to I'm jealous of cigarette smokers because they're the only people that get to go in the parking lot and do drugs at work, and it's not frowned upon. It's the approved substance list. The camaraderie that cigarette smokers have is unmatched. Couldn't imagine just a real busy, stressful day. The boss man's just killing you, and you just go outside and take a long drag of that cigarette. And I hate this boss.
Cigarette smokers are far
it
more
needs
interesting.
work, but it's a water cooler moment all the time.
Yeah, there's potential.
Yeah,
there.
it's a dark
it needs
undertone
work.
to the water
Yeah.
cooler conversation.
It needs work.
Yeah.
But I've practiced.
There's potential there.
Again, I'm an only child. I have time and I know how to spend it.
Oh shit. Well, thank you guys for coming. I really
It was fun.
appreciate
It
it.
was a
a
good time.
blast.
Yeah. Do it again sometime.
Yeah. We'll mark it down on the calendar.
Yes, on the calendar. I got to make sure I don't work overtime that day.
Yeah.
I
Both of you.
put forth a conscious effort to have today off. I really did. I typed out my overtime text the other day to put in for today, and I was like, wait, nope, we're doing the podcast that day. Can't do it.
Yep.
And then I didn't.
For the record, we screwed that up about 2 weeks ago.
We really did screw that up about 2 weeks ago. Nick tried to work overtime on the day that we were supposed to do the podcast.
We
He
both
didn't-
worked that day, didn't we?
I picked up day of in my defense because you did.
Yeah, I had a partial on the truck.
Uh-huh.
That's a big moment
That
for
is
a
a big
medic.
day for a paramedic to be on the truck.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't get those days.
I'd flake on me too to work on the truck for a day as a paramedic.
Closing thoughts.
Well, now I'm on the spot. This was fun. It was a good time. I like your setup. We'll have to do it again.
Cool.
Get-
Thanks.
Really see how deep the rabbit hole goes.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
Nick, closing thoughts.
Get your sleep, find things that humble you, and spend time with people.
Well said.
I like it. I'm going to echo what Nick said. Definitely making sure that you're not overworking, you're getting your sleep and getting good sleep.
Healthy
Yeah.
coping mechanisms.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to have those hard conversations with, the people that you work with or just don't be afraid to have the conversation. It's okay to speak up. If you're not okay, that's fine. Say something. So if you are struggling, reach out. There are resources out there for you. If you know somebody that is struggling, reach out to them, let them know you care, let them know there are resources out there for them. And thanks for stopping by, and we will see you next time.